Hi everyone and welcome back. I hope that you're doing really well. I'm coming on today to, of course, talk about the total solar eclipse happening on December 4th, 2021. Welcome back to my channel if you are returning, and if you're new, welcome for the first time. It is most frequent that the eclipse videos tend to get out there to a lot of people, so if you're new, why not check out some of the other videos on this channel. I'm going to go ahead and link below my Through the Signs playlist if you love astrology. If you would like to learn more about it, I have an incredible playlist with some new installments coming soon as well about major astrology placements. Check that out below and hit that subscribe button as well if the video resonates for you. Turn on those bell notifications to be notified, as I am doing live premieres every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So let's talk about total solar eclipse happening on December 4th. I'm just so excited to bring in some of this energy because it's looking like we have a major wake-up call. And it's not a wake-up call in the way that we think about it. You know, a lot of times we think that our lives need these 100% changes, that we need to leave everything behind, that we need to totally start over. And those have been common thoughts for a lot of people in the very innovative and structural year of 2021. So, if you're like me or like a lot of other people this year, you might have been thinking, gosh, what changes do I make? Gosh, how do I make my life more secure at the same time? How can I have change and security? And this total solar eclipse is going to show us a little bit more about that. It's going to really get real with us, and we're going to have to get real with ourselves, okay? Basically, as this total solar eclipse, of course, is happening in the sign of Sagittarius, there is going to be a change in philosophy. As we always know, with any eclipse, especially total solar eclipses, something comes in and something goes out. Sagittarius is the ruler of the 9th house. This rules over concepts, philosophies, higher-minded things, you know, like academics, law, anything that has a conceptual, non-physical structuring is ruled by Sagittarius, so it's very likely that during this time there could be a change in those areas. So we have big changes in mindset, big changes in the relationship to that which we have created, as Sagittarius is also a creative sign. It creates structures, it creates these higher-minded ideas. So you could have a sudden light bulb moment, you could suddenly find the solution to a problem, and you could also, you know, on the more difficult side, there can be sort of a destructive tendency with this eclipse as well, like wanting to destroy what you've previously created, or wanting to be finished with something that used to be a pinnacle for you, because I think that this total solar eclipse is asking us to climb a little bit higher. Again, this is the energy of the 9th house, which is not quite the apex, it's not quite the summit, but it is the climbing process. So we have maybe a removal of certain mindsets or philosophies that are keeping us stagnant, okay? And the replacement of those with new mindsets that enable us to climb more to where we want to be. So the main thing that I can tell you, again, in the intuitive messages section of this video about this solar eclipse, the main thing is that it's asking us to start to move into an elevation, okay? There has to be some kind of ascending or elevation past this point. So we can't actually just stay where we are now preceding this. And, you know, even to the prior lunar eclipse that we had on November 19th in Taurus, you might have already seen the changes, okay, during that window of time between November 19th and December 4th of 2021. I'll link that video below. I did make a video about the lunar eclipse, and you might be interested to get some hindsight on this video to understand the momentum a little bit more. So you might have already seen that the infrastructure in your life started to totally change since then. One of the first things I have written down for this eclipse is a sudden shift in personal infrastructure. And I mean, maybe even also collectively, right? I mean, there could be a change in that type of infrastructure as well. But I'm already seeing so many people, it's like, to me, the energy of like you might not even realize it, but everything might have changed by now. Like you might be living in a new place, you might be wearing a new type of clothing, you might be seeing that you're drawn to maintain certain things in your life more efficiently. Okay, so we have maybe a better maintenance of a household. We have the better maintenance of some type of machine, like your car or your bank or your like your bank account, your budgeting, your all of this stuff is a very auspicious to have an increase in structural efficiency right now, because the lunar eclipse in Taurus, oh, it's just so perfect. The lunar eclipse in Taurus of November 19th would have made you feel emotionally uncomfortable with insecure things. So overspending habit, not maintaining what you have well, having a lot of heavy things in your life that are mal-maintained would have given an emotional heaviness starting November 19th, and I'm already seeing so many people having stepped into action since then, and just also naturally manifesting results. So when we're in eclipse cycles, it's not always about, you know, I'm going to change this, I'm going to make a plan, I'm going to do it. Sometimes the universe does it for us, and the change just happens. And it's great if we can match that halfway. It's great if we can sort of reach out and in a responsible and integrity-based way kind of work in tandem with the universe to facilitate some of these changes. So, you know, moving up towards December 4th, and I hope you guys are subscribed and getting these videos early, because I'm making this quite in advance for you to make sure that you have a lot of time to think in this way, to prepare for this transit. You know, as we're approaching, okay, so from the time of like November 26th until like December 3rd, it's really feasible to be working diligently on your projects, on your commitments, on your outputs, and to be doing them in a what you already know to be a better way. So just Xing out the procrastination, just Xing out the attention deficit tendency, Xing out these negative time spending habits, or these also leaks of money, letting go of things that you didn't need to let go of, letting yourself live in a healthier way leading up to the eclipse will really help to mitigate any of the shocks of the eclipse, because a total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, in deep traditional astrology, this is one of the more chaotic eclipse points. So, you know, living a life that's completely reliant on chaotic stepping up, like having to do so much every day, having to put things off, and having to like also get creative in ways that you don't need to, just like make ends meet. This can get to another level of chaos with a total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, because it really wants us to be behind ourselves, right? You know, being in a philosophy that feels good about how we're living our lives. If we're not feeling good about what we're contributing to, if we're putting 80% of our energy into the flotsam and jetsam of life and 20% of our energy into that which actually matters, that is what can be threatened by this type of eclipse, because it wants to kind of reverse that. So that's good to know leading up to the eclipse. And if you can already kind of start to work that way, like, okay, I've got to redirect my energy a little bit. I've got to maybe start doing things that actually matter, and then saving that other 20% of my energetic yield for these more, you know, unimportant things. A solar eclipse in Sagittarius redefines what is important in our lives, and it really makes that a mental, high-minded process. So it's good to think about, what am I prioritizing in my life? What is my hierarchy of priorities? That's really good to think about leading up to this eclipse, because by the time this eclipse happens, it's going to probably solidify a hierarchy of priorities, and you'd be surprised to know like what you think your hierarchy of priorities is versus what you're actually acting upon. So it's good to maybe make this hierarchy of priorities, and then also look back in your journals, or understand, like, you know, just by knowing where you've been and what you've been up to over the last few months, like how that reality compared to your hierarchy of priorities. That's really an exceptional way to work with this energy, because it can, again, it's like the universe comes in and makes choices for us during eclipses. So if we've been living way off of our hierarchy of priorities, we might really see that on December 4th. We might not be able to meet a deadline. We might not be able to actually produce in alignment with our hierarchy of priorities. And there might be like a physical, again, solar eclipses are quite often physical, right? So this can look like I don't know, you committed to something and you couldn't meet that commitment. And there's a registering from other people like, ooh, I kind of thought that that person was a deadline expert, and I realized I was wrong about them. Like, there can be that, and that doesn't matter. It's not about like feeling bad about not being able to live up to commitments, but it is about understanding what our hierarchy of priorities was leading up to that, and then also what we lost control over with our time spending or with our management capacity, and how that all added up in this situation. Because the exact opposite can also take place. Like, you can level up, or people can be like, wow, that person really met that deadline, or wow, that person is not just meeting deadlines. They're not just being a robot. They're actually like kind of a Zen pioneer, and they're not only capable of meeting these deadlines, but they're capable of like so much more at the same time, and it's not even that hard for them. Like, there's kind of this sink or swim feeling, right? Where it's like we either have this huge level elevation or we have a bit of a collapse for some people as well. And that's not bad either, like, because that's kind of a sign that we're not maybe in the right place, or we've misjudged or misinterpreted the way that we needed to express our energetic yield. So the expression of our energetic yield is the main thing coming up with this total solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December 4th. And we have to be willing to accept the meaning of just the physical reality during this moment, like what it means to have all of this in front of you, like what it means to be bridging this energetic gap, like what it means to have met these deadlines so easily, or what it means also to have missed deadlines. There has to sort of be like a real understanding, like, okay, I missed deadlines. I need to maybe step back a little bit and work on my health, or understand why or what the disconnect was between the signing up for certain things and then the missing of that, and where that disconnect was. You know, did I have a false impression of what I was getting myself into? Also, did I over assume and sort of dehumanize myself by stepping up to a challenge that was unrealistic? Or, there's like a converse, complete opposite side to it. There's really no in between. Or have I essentially completely overcome and transcended the previous limitations that I had as well? And then as we go through that experience, there's this new level of limitations that come in, and it's basically like kind of getting your sailor's legs. Like, what's that term, like when you're on a ship, you know, and you're adjusting to that equilibrium? I'm seeing that a lot for people after this total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, which then prepares us for Jupiter to change sign into Pisces. We have a major Jupiterian energy throughout this month of December, and it's a really, really fine opportunity to understand our callings a little bit more, to understand purpose, but to also understand where things are inflated, or where things are too big or too gaseous in a way. There's both of that. And for everyone, I think regardless of where you're at coming into this solar eclipse, there's a new world that you're learning to operate within. And, you know, if it's not happening in December, I think, because December is kind of a weird period of time to have solar eclipses, because we have the world, the physical world, right, operating in the context of December, which, you know, things are shut down at the end of the month. There's a going within, and I think that that's always such a incredible time. I'll make more videos about this on the channel leading up to it, but it's always such a good time at the end of December to come back to you and to plan fiscally and energetically and in every way about how you would like your next year to come on, and to sort of also get things in order. You know, it's not just you know, when we merge from Sagittarius to Capricorn, we go from high-mindedness into the physical apex that generates, and it combines. So with this total solar eclipse here happening on the Sagittarius part, we got to get our minds and our philosophies and our concepts in conjunction with where we actually want to be. And if we can line those things up, we're going to have almost a sort of guarantee via a refined hierarchy of priorities, a guarantee of a sort of expert passage into that vicinity if we like. And I'm seeing a big shift in confidence for people as well with this eclipse. Again, Sagittarius is a sign that rules over confidence and presence and the force of one's presence. So there's going to be a shift in that as well. And I think that for some people, this is about understanding the physical body more. As you all know, my astrological philosophy tends to be in the nature of offsetting. So when we have a big consortium of similar energies, you know, like Sagittarius, Aquarius, Pisces, all of these high-minded, which is a lot of what we have in the sky right now, all of this kind of non-physical, high-minded, arbitrary energy, it has to be offset with grounded physical aspects of life as well. So I will say it's easy to let the body go with this transit. There can be an eclipsing of a previous version of health or an eclipsing of illness as well. We can take it from either way, but I would definitely encourage more of a body focus. Okay, so a grounding, a enjoyment of the way the body moves, an enjoyment of each joint, an enjoyment of the skin and the protective nature of it. And just kind of thinking about that more might also help to really bring some of these things, which I think for a lot of people are way out of alignment. So because of the undefined energy, so much Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Pisces, and then the North nodes, of course, right, in Gemini and Sagittarius, it's so undefined, it's so kind of perception-oriented and communication-oriented, and not much of what we're experiencing right here and right now is super real. It's more of a mind game for a lot of people, that's true. You can basically really level up if you can offset that. So if you can do something real here, if you can have real results with your body and your personal infrastructure, if you can have real earth experiences, grounded experiences, healing of the root chakra, healing of your connection to your lifeline, not just in a transcending oriented arbitrary way, but in a real way that will really just up your sense of personal capability and autonomy and health a lot more. Because I will say, so here's, and I don't want to create a sense of fear in you all, but I think that it needs to be said, there is a possibility with this eclipse time to totally lose track of yourself, or to totally lose track of the momentum you needed to be on, by being really focused on arbitrary things, or things that don't have an answer, things that can't be defined. Trying to define the undefinable is a good way during this time to completely lose track of your real physical self or real physical experience. You know? So again, offset it. This might be a really impeccable time to be working with like physical therapist, any type of real physical treatments. I keep being drawn to the body, okay? Because a lot of us just are not there right now. A lot of us are, because of Saturn having moved to Aquarius and making its way towards Pisces eventually, Jupiter moving into Pisces, the kind of mid-generational energies are so out of the body, it's so traveling between dimensions, it's just crazy, that we can wake up by the time Saturn eventually gets into Aries, Jupiter, Aries, Taurus, you know, those body-oriented signs, with some problems on our hands there. So we want to just overcome certain reliances or dependencies on, whether it be like substances or whether it be time spending, money spending, anything that pulls us out of our physical body and into a different dimension. That's going to be a guarantee for everybody regardless. So you might want to think about making time where you're not in those other dimensions. And when I say other dimensions, like, okay, so thinking about where you'll be in the future, right? Thinking about where you've been in the past, thinking about how you would be in this career, thinking about what it would be like if you started that business, all these conditional, subjunctive ways of living that I feel to be 80% of a lot of people's lives right now. 80%. That's the common, that's the collective metric, right? It's going to be more and less for other people, for different people. We want to really pull that back a little bit and maybe devote a lot more time for being here in the present, for understanding like the furniture around you, for understanding your skin and your body and your physical form, and starting to develop more of a transcending process there that's more physical and more real. So yeah, exercise regimens. It's got to start getting more real than that, because when I'm using that language, when I'm talking about, like, I don't know, physical therapy, exercise regimens, all these kind of like practical things, I feel that I'm not catching people's want in the degree that I would if I were, say, talking about, wow, we could start this business over here, wow, we could totally transcend our previous location by you know, experiencing a soulmate relationship with this person over there. This is not where it's at right now. Those things will come in naturally, but if we're thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about them, we're just creating paradigms for us to think all the time and to not really experience. So the brain is really increasing with all this Gemini, Sag, Aquarius, Pisces energy. The human brain, I feel, is probably going through some type of evolution to some degree. I mean, that this takes, right, millions of years, but there's maybe a speeding up a little bit of that here. Nothing really crazy to think about there. I mean, this is like a natural process, but it's like maybe we are capable of kind of thinking a little bit more supradimensionally, I'm gonna say, at this time. And a lot of us are like, wow, that's really incredible, I'm just gonna do that all the time. And we've got to start to get physical. This eclipse is a good point to make a change. Like, okay, I'm going to start devoting this time to a grounded experience. I'm going to start having these massages. I'm going to start having this treatment. I'm going to start, you know, anything that's starting on a new foot here is good in that way. Also, it's good with this total solar eclipse, like by December 4th, to just be like, okay, starting now, I'm going to not doomcast or catastrophize my future. That's another really good thing of this, because Sagittarius can get a little bit crazy like this. It can be super optimistic, but then also it can really doomcast almost in a exaggerated way. So there might be an exaggerated bad feeling about what you're involved in or about what you're moving into as well. And I think that we just have to really get hands off and accept what is created here and now, and maybe prepare by the calendar new year to just have a resolution one way or another. Resolution, right? Eclipse. I think that it will be also more capable to see how everything fits in our life, whether it does or doesn't, and how it does as well. So that should really bring us a lot of clarity with this eclipse too. Anyway, everyone, let's go ahead and talk specifically about just the astrology, moving out of the intuitive messages. So I'm going to throw up the chart on the screen, and I'm just looking here. Okay, so we have a pretty big conglomeration there, don't we? I mean, we have the sun, the moon, and Mercury really close together during the eclipse. So that is probably why it seems to be such a mind-oriented energy manifestation. Less physical. I mean, because it's a solar eclipse, it's always going to have a physical aspect to it, but it's only physical in the sense that the mind is experiencing that. So I could definitely see like chronic illness because of a mind that worries too much, okay? And realizing that about oneself and healing that. Also, mental or experiential trauma that stores itself within the fascia of the body, right? I was talking in a previous video, I think, about trauma-based fascia wounds, which is something I would like to talk more about on the channel in general. But that's, I think, also why I'm feeling that the physical body focus is important, right? Because we might be thinking that we can fix these things with our mind, with our decision making. And of course, we have to make the decision also to, I suppose, have some kind of therapy or something. But what I'm trying to get at here is a lot of us think, I can think my way out of this. I can figure out this trauma or figure out this wound in my mind. I don't have to physically make a change. And this eclipse is going to really say or make a judgment, I think, on that. For some people, maybe they can. And then for other people, like 99% of people, it's going to have to get a little bit more action-oriented, and we're going to have to maybe, if we can't heal through the mind, we're going to have to heal otherwise, I think. Of course, also, what else do I want to talk about here? Astrology. We do have a loose trine from Chiron happening at this eclipse point. So a Chiron trine, a solar eclipse in Sagittarius. I mean, that's very powerful in a way. To me, that's opening up the ability to heal a trauma. That's opening up the ability to rise to a very high level of purpose, like the wounded healer really comes out here. So by these traumas that we've experienced, we can rise into a much more adequate purpose for ourselves. But the confusion, and there is confusion in this chart because of the mind orientation, I feel like a lot of people are just experiencing this personally, like in their minds, like, I can eventually do this someday. I can eventually become, you know, a healer of this variety, or I can eventually step into my purpose here and there. And it's like almost a game of pretend if this eclipse point is not used as a bridge to step into these roles in a more realistic way. I would pay close attention to hiding in purpose. Okay. It's kind of antithetical. It's kind of ironic because purpose to me indicates a coming out of a shell. It indicates I mean, not necessarily, but most of the time for most people, it's an expression. A purpose is an expression. It's not an impression. So I'm feeling that this is an impressed focus or an impressed purpose that we're experiencing right now. So Chiron, Trine, Solar Eclipse, and Sagittarius, it's like these are kind of like philosophical purposes or things that are not expressing themselves yet. And that's getting odd to me. And to me, that feels that it can come out in weird ways if we're not allowing ourselves to express these purposes. You know, being that Saturn is also sextile, it's like we can really build some incredible stuff here. Saturn in close sextile, Chiron, Trine. Saturn and Chiron being the expressing portals of this eclipse energy. It's powerful stuff. Like you've been building for so long, or you've been working in a healing capacity, or you've been working on this for so long that now it's going to almost in a guaranteed way shape up and structure itself, right? Like these changes in infrastructure. Saturn sextile, the solar eclipse, Chiron trine. Also Uranus quincunx, yes. None of the business or contracts or paper plans, strategies are going to resonate with this. And I think that that's important to know with the Uranus quincunx, the solar eclipse. Uranus in Taurus is in a complete stage of dictation over the way that our status quos are being generated right now. So the way that financing, funding, contracts, economy, even law to a degree impacts all of these choices. So being that it's quincunx to the solar eclipse, like we might feel that we are just unable to harmonize with the current status quos, or it's like, how do we express these things in a way that works with the world and then also with our true knowing? That's not going to feel like it aligns right now, so we almost have to prepare ourselves for that. And it doesn't mean that we stop, it doesn't mean that we give up, it doesn't mean that we surrender our progress because we just don't feel like things harmonize. This is a problem in spiritual New Age communities, maybe a little bit of a controversial subject, but we're not always going to feel like we harmonize with it, okay? We're not always, by virtue of being in an earth life, there are going to be things that we have to do that we don't want to do. There are going to have to be a few things that don't always feel great. There are going to have to be a few risks and rewards and losses as well on this path to getting to these points, because those are the polarities that we experience that fuel and motivate our relevance to these purposes, or at least that's how it is with the current astrological outlay. This is not like just waking up in purpose. This is not like just saying, I want that, give it to me, I have it now. This is like, I have a deep purpose, I have a compelled sense of belonging in XYZ place. I know that this is unconventional, Uranus quincunx. I know that this is strange. I know that this is kind of different, but just because that's the case, I can't just surrender, you know? The Chiron trine is like, I've come out of the previous difficulty. I've risen above that, and now through that wounding, I can heal. And then the Saturn sextile is like the structure is already here. So it's kind of like all the loose components that we're working with. As we tie all of that together, you know, it's very possible that the way that things have been functioning at a status quo level in many of our lives for like the last 3 or 4 years is just completely messy on one hand, but it's also the complete key to the next paradigm. So it's just like it is what it is at this point in time, and we don't need to worry ourselves that much. But yes, as the nodes shift in like January and February of 2022, the paradigm's going to feel very different. And we want to have a solid set of structures, okay? We don't want to be totally starting over, all right, when nodes go into Taurus and Scorpio. It's not going to be feasible or possible to be in carte blanche or to be at square one at that time. So in that sense, at the solar eclipse, is there a last chance to go back to square one? I suppose that there could be, but I think that it's already out to an extent, and I don't think that anybody would stay there, okay? We don't want to be at square one forever, right? Like the thing about square one is that it's not a permanent, okay? It's never going to be. So using this energy wisely, working well with this, to me looks like an accepting of where we are and understanding how it has to just be formed and forged into a relevant, resonant part of our lives through our continued commitments over a long period of time, legitimizing that forging, right? That is the best way to think about this time. I mean, we've got Venus-Pluto conjunct, so we are a lot more powerful than we understand probably in our current present moment. And an interesting thing that I will leave you with, because this isn't about discouragement, this isn't about being like, oh no, there's a super arbitrary, super non-physical, kind of messy conglomeration of transits. Does that mean that that's what my life is going to look like? No. In fact, by virtue of it being this way, it means that you've got a lot more options and a lot more choice over how things go, right? You know, nobody is really stuck here, which is cool. But there is a feeling of high stakes wins and losses. There's a feeling of sink or swim, so a lot of people stagnate and choose this feeling of preserved messiness in order to, you know, be in sort of the lover's archetype, right? Like that deliberative crossroads place. Anyway, what I want to conclude on is that I feel that the universe is right here for every person being like, but you can step into authority over the situation anytime that you want. You can step into your own personal focus anytime you want. You have total ability to just work with all of these moving parts at this point in time. Like, just go for it. Is kind of a vibe that I'm feeling with this. And I believe I said something in the lunar eclipse video, or perhaps it was the December comprehensive astrology video, or maybe both of them. I talked about how the universe is quite particular with who it puts into these choosing places, right? Like, so many people have to deal with other people choosing for them, have to deal with the choices of others and just, you know, get good with that stuff. But so many people here, and so many more people than ever as a collective in this dimension, are experiencing their lives in a choice-making place. And I think that a lot of them are mad about it because, yeah, that means you have a lot of liability. That means that you're responsible for what you choose. And a lot of us are like putting our hands over our eyes and being like, I choose nothing. And that's just a really great environment to invite choice makers above you into your experience. So I think we've got to enjoy a choice-making place, enjoy consistency, enjoy changes in philosophy, and enjoy the resolute structuring of how things could be now in this oncoming paradigm, because we kind of need to take a lot of stuff with us. We need to have a bottom line of structure in the Taurus Scorpio nodal paradigm, and the solar eclipse happening so close to that cusp, right? Or happening when the nodes are so close to that cusp. We need to understand what we take with us and what we don't, okay? And we take more with us than we, I think, give ourselves credit for at this time. And then there's really great resolution on the styling of these structures that can be really refined and made exactly what we needed them to be in the oncoming months. But right here and right now, solar eclipse, total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, something comes in, something goes out. It's probably mindset oriented, it's probably philosophy oriented, and there are going to be physical changes that result based on those things. So as we're in that place, just try to really leave frustration at the door, leave anger about what you did before at the door. Also, ground it in your body a little bit more. Does this feel good to your body? Do some of these things you're doing feel good to your body? Is it natural? Does it come naturally? It's probably good. Does it come unnaturally? Do you regret it? Do you not like it? It's probably not great. And you can really pick and choose how you want to express and experience those things now. And final conclusion, it's just such a powerful environment with the nodes in Gemini and Sagittarius in their last moments, with the Mercury, Sun, Moon conjunction in Sagittarius, solar eclipse, total solar eclipse, with the other planets connecting to it. Like, the mental fortitude is off the charts. The ability to like make a structure, to create a conceptual tie of structures, to create a formula, to formulate your life in a kind of incredible, overbearing in a sense, conceptual way, to essentially, what do I want to say? To essentially, this is what it's like, by the way, to essentially construct together like a schemata of structural components that like ensure your security and your guaranteed passage into purpose. That's probably the best way to articulate this transit, but that's kind of like mad scientist territory at the same time, I've got to tell you. And it's also, in a way, potentially a bit of a dogmatic territory and a bit of a way over strategic, like to the point of scheming, or to the point of like, in the negative, scheming, or in the negative, complete dissociation or disconnection from action. But in the positive, I could also see like new mathematical formulas created here. Yes, absolutely new religions, new spiritual ideas, new political thoughts, new economic thoughts. Like, yes, and then maybe the stepping away from previous ones as well. Like that, I think that will definitely start to happen, and we'll probably be seeing that over the next like 2 to 3 years from this point on. Like all of a sudden, like brand new, I don't know, economic theories, all of a sudden brand new political movements, all of a sudden brand new, you know, maybe academic structures as well, okay? Businesses or organizations dealing with teaching or education could be absolutely completely rebuilt with this energy. And that might not be seen because it's going to take time to build that. Because again, people are in that schemata mindset place, right? Where it's not so much the physical action, it's like the planning. So it's important to know that there's probably a huge kind of replanning at this time at every level in the way that things work. But the thing is none of that will work without the current things in place to facilitate them. So it's kind of a feeling of gridlock to me at the same time. But the ideas are there. So I'm going to leave you guys on that note. It's great food for thought. I'm looking forward to some new content coming. 2022 year ahead forecasts are already in production and will be coming later in December. So be sure that you've hit the subscribe button and turned on the bell notifications. I will be doing all the signs for the year of 2022. And I've got some incredible content coming for the rest of the month. I think December might be the most active month of the year so far on this channel. So hit that like button, get this video out there, subscribe. I'm also on Patreon, I'm on Twitter, I'm on gosh only knows how much different stuff. I'll link that below. I have an Amazon storefront as well with like holiday shopping, which is a great way to support this channel. Many people ask me about like what I use for content creation, like what microphone I use, what different equipment I use, which I have linked in my storefront. And then also just like some other things that I like, from like Himalayan salt lamps to other stuff. You guys know that I like to keep a vibe going, and a lot of you ask me about that, so I've linked that below. It's a way, on one hand, to support this channel and to also get some incredible stuff if you're looking to do some holiday shopping. So that'll be linked below. And anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have a wonderful clarity moment during this total solar eclipse. So happy eclipse season and safe navigation. Keep safe, keep easy. and just let things be what they are now. So thank you so much, everyone. I will talk to you soon. Bye.